Good evening and welcome to PJTN Online. I'm your host, Lori Cardoza-Moore, and I want to welcome you all to our special holiday edition as we celebrate America's independence today. And I want to welcome our guests for tuning in. For our new guests who may not be familiar with proclaiming justice to the nations, our mission is to educate Christians about their biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and defend the state of Israel against the rise of anti-Semitism around the globe. We accomplish our mission by producing award-winning programs, documentaries, shows like this to educate Christians around the world so that they are equipped with information so that they can confront anti-Semitism in their communities. We also distribute all of our programs to our 21 global media partners. That enables PJTN to reach 2.6 billion viewers around the globe every week. And so I want to thank you all for taking the time to tune in and to become more knowledgeable about this issue and what our role as Christians is in this hour for such a time as this. I also want to encourage you all to consider becoming a PJTN Watchman if you haven't done so tonight. The role of the Watchman is very specific, and for those of you who are students of the Bible, you know in Ezekiel chapter 33, where God talked about the Watchman to the prophet Ezekiel, the Watchman's role is to remind the inhabitants of the city or warn them if an enemy is advancing upon the city. If the watchman fails to warn those people in the city, then if there's any innocent blood spilled, it would be required of that watchman. However, if the watchman warns the inhabitants, and the inhabitants fail to heed the warning of the watchman, then if their blood is spilled, it will be required of them. So there's great responsibility, but it's not just speaking out, it's also financially supporting this ministry, supporting these programs to enable us to reach the 2.6 billion viewers around the globe. As a watchman, you would commit yourself to partner with us prayerfully, financially, and by becoming part of our PJTN family around the world. In fact, we just had a PJTN partner who is going to be starting a PJTN chapter in Johannesburg, South Africa. So we're so excited to share that. It just goes to show that these messages, as Christians, Jews, and all people of conscience tune in, not just to this program, but all of our award-winning programs, or that watch our documentary films, they are inspired to become involved. They realize that they have been brought into the earth for such a time as this to be used by Almighty God to protect our Jewish brethren and the state of Israel. Your monthly donation will help ensure that PJTN remains on the front lines and in the headlines of this all-encompassing war, educating a global audience of Christians. And of course, our goal this year is to have 5,000 new PJTN Watchmen. So if you have not signed up yet and you are tuned in tonight, we're going to ask you to consider becoming a Watchman. All it takes is $20 a month to stand with us. It's 4 cups of coffee just in 1 month to help us to reach millions of people, billions of people around the globe. I also want to encourage you to go to pjtn.org. You can go there and donate. If you go to pjtn.org/donate and become a watchman tonight. Now in PJTN headlines for this week, every week we deal with an issue or several issues that have made the headlines. And of course, many of you have probably been following the ongoing debate with regards to immigration. And we're not going to get into the whole immigration debate tonight, but what I do want to focus on is a video clip that I want to share with you of a Holocaust survivor by the name of David Tuck, who was born in Poland in 1929. Tuck has a message for those who would compare American illegal immigrant detainment facilities to the Holocaust. So let's take a look at what Mr. Tuck has to say.
Listen to me. I went through it. Please, this is not a concentration camp. They're free. I looked up over there and I said to myself, all the mattresses and everything, food. I said, if at that time I would think it's a country club. So live the best you can. It's still America, still the best country. If you don't believe it, then leave the country. My name is David Tuck. I was born in Poland. In our town, we only had about 18 Jewish families. First, the Nazis gave us the yellow armbands on the left arm. Then they gave us a Star of David, one in the front, one in the back. If you walked in the street on the same sidewalk the SS-men walked, if you didn't step down, they will kill you. If I had any piece of bread at night with me, somebody knew about it, they will steal it from me. Everybody was for himself, survival. There were times at night when I used to go sleep, I said, please God, let me see the light the next day. Many times. They gave me a tattoo, a number. I still have it on my arm. If you wanted to, I showed it to you. I'm skin and bone already. The Americans were bombing all the roads, the railroad. No food was coming to the camp. I never forget, on May the 5th, there were more dead people in the camp and the barracks than living ones. When I saw the counts, I said, my God, now they're going to kill us. And he said to us, noontime, the Americans are going to come down the mountain and you're going to be free. I didn't believe it myself, I made it. I made a commitment. I never forget, never forgive what it did to me. But I don't live with hate.
To someone who thinks that America runs concentration camps on the border, can you give them a message as someone who experienced a concentration camp?
Grow up. You know how to spell, you know how to read, how to listen, do it. You can't compare it. Anytime I hear it, it's sickening.
What about the term people call President Donald Trump, people call other political opponents Nazis? What do you think about that?
Sickening. It's just plain sickening. I thought we smarted it. Everybody looks up to, everybody wants to come to America. I remember when I was a little boy, the first thing what I said to the American, I want to go to America. I want to get out. I want to live here. Sure, nothing is perfect in life. I came here, I had to go to work, I had a family. I'm not complaining, nothing, but I'm free. The freedom, yeah, if you don't take advantage for freedom, don't think about something else is going to be better. If you want to come to America, I did it, I waited, I came here. It's life. This politics it's unbelievable. You don't like the president, in 4 years you can kick him out. Forget it. I listen to those politicians sometimes, I said, I wonder. They think that we're not even stupid, that's all. Don't worry, we're not going to hurt nobody. So people come in here, different kind of people come in, there's trouble, there's always trouble in the world. No, even the families, we don't like each other. So live the best you can. It's still America, still the best country. If you don't believe it, then leave the country.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I share Mr. Tuck's concerns about people, individuals trying to use this opportunity to try to associate President Trump's policies, which actually reflect U.S. law. This is federal law that requires that if a criminal breaks a law, they are detained. But the children are not connected with these. They cannot go into these detainment camps with the parents. They have to be separated out. It's just, that's how our laws work. But to suggest that these detainment camps where these people are being kept, and even the children being kept, is like a Holocaust, a Nazi Holocaust camp, is outrageous. And I just want to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, I've been watching this whole scenario unfold throughout the week. And what disturbs me about this is that the difference between the immigrants who are coming here, they're coming willingly. They were not forced. The Jews in Poland, in Germany, were forced out of their homes in the middle of the night against their will. and then they were taken into the city square and they were shot dead, men, women, and children, to suggest for these individuals and these groups to suggest that President Trump and his policies with regards to the immigration are likened to that, it is outrageous, and it is a false claim, and it's a very dangerous trend that we are moving on to suggest that U.S. policy is similar to the Nazis. So we're going to continue to follow this issue throughout the coming weeks as this whole battle continues to unfold. But I want you all to really consider what is being said, no matter what position. Yes, it's terrible what has happened, that these parents would take these children thousands of miles across Mexican territory, and in some instances, the parents are putting these kids in these tractor trailers with no air, in the heat, no water. Some of these kids are dying of dehydration, of starvation. Some of these children are being raped. What parent would put their children into this situation? Where is the Mexican government? The Mexican government knows that the drug lords are making money off of this. They are charging these parents. These people aren't coming to these cities and saying, if you want a better life, hop in this truck. We'll take you and your whole family. They are charging them thousands of dollars to make this trek. And it is not secure, and it is not safe for the children. And the Mexican government should be intervening. But what are they doing? They're turning a blind eye. So it's outrageous that this is going on. And no, you cannot compare it to what happened, to what the Nazis did to the Jews in Germany, in Europe, during World War II. I also just want to encourage you all, it's important again to support this ministry, to support the work that we're doing. So I want to encourage you to go to our website at pjtn.org/donate. We're also going to watch another video with another opportunity as to how you can support PJTN. Let's take a look. This month marks the 70th anniversary of the historic Declaration of the State of Israel. God's sovereign hand can be seen all over this land. Included in the celebrations is the opening of the American Embassy right here in Jerusalem. In honor of this celebration, PJTN is offering a special 70th anniversary package, which includes a captivating new book and an award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. Welcome back. We have a special holiday program now as we celebrate America's Independence Day. Whether you're watching this program from the United States or from another country, we hope that you will be inspired and encouraged by our interview with former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yoram Ettinger. As a historian, we interviewed Ambassador Ettinger about the unique relationship between the U.S. and Israel. From our founding documents to our shared biblical heritage, Americans and Israelis share a common destiny. Let's take a look. I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Focus on Israel. I'm Lori Cardoza-Moore, president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating Christians about their biblical responsibility to the Jewish people. Many Christians do not realize that the Word explicitly tells us to stand with our Jewish brethren and defend the land God calls His. On our last program, we focused on how the nations of the world have treated Israel, from the establishment of the Jewish homeland to the recent debacle at the United Nations. Today we'll be focusing on the unique relationship that America has with Israel. I think you will be surprised by what you'll learn today. Recently, while in Israel, I had the opportunity to speak with Yoram Ettinger, a retired Israeli ambassador. In previous years, he served as a minister in charge of congressional affairs at the Israeli Embassy in Washington. He was Consul General of Israel in Houston, Texas, and a Director of Relations with overseas foreign media. He now consults Israeli and American legislators, writes for American and Israeli newspapers, and is also the CEO of a new organization called Second Thought, an American-Israeli initiative to raise second thought about Israel and U.S. relations. He was a wealth of information concerning the historic relationship America has had with Israel and the Jewish people, from the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock to the many biblical names of towns throughout the U.S.
The U.S.-Israel relations are very unique in the world because not only are they based on shared, deep, multi-century values, bolstered by mutual threats and shared interests, both security-wise as well as economic. But in fact, those relationships do not depend on a single person. They do not depend on a president or on a secretary of state. They emanate from the people in America. They emanate from the history and the substance of what makes America a special society, a special country, and therefore the representatives of the people, Congress, has been a bastion of support for Israel, in fact, before there was a Jewish state. In order to understand the special affinity by the American people towards Israel, one has to go back to history before 1948, before Second World War, in fact, before 1776, starting with the first pilgrims who arrived to the new continent. And as far as they were concerned, they left modern-day Egypt, Britain. They rebelled against modern-day Pharaoh, King Charles, and they went through the modern-day Red Sea, the Atlantic, and they arrived to modern-day Promised Land or New Canaan. Therefore, the proliferation of biblical names on American map, hundreds, if not thousands, of locations bearing biblical names, in fact, more than you will find in Israel, because of the size, obviously. Those locations and the biblical names testify to the very special role upheld by the Jewish state, by Judaism, by the Jewish people in the context of modern-day America, the USA. You go back to the founding fathers, Thomas Paine, when he wrote Common Sense. He relied on the prophet Samuel. He relied on the judge Gideon when he rationalized why the people should not accept a rule of a king, why they should rebel against the king. When you look at the Liberty Bell, which is an icon in the American state of mind or American history, the inscription on the Liberty Bell is from the Old Testament, from the Torah: proclaim liberty upon the earth and unto all the inhabitants thereof, from the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 10. You look at the House of Representatives in Washington, at the center of the chamber, facing the Speaker of the House, the statue of Moses. And he's there at the center, surrounded by 22 other statues. But while Moses looks straight ahead towards the speaker, all the other 22 are in profile. They're all staring at Moses because he is the source, while all the rest are the derivatives. You cross one street from Capitol building and you go up the stairs to the Supreme Court. Above the entrance, series of statues, by far the largest among them. At the center, once again, Moses holding the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments. And when you enter the Supreme Court, above the table or desk of the 9 Supreme Court justices, at the ceiling on the right-hand side, once again, Moses holding the tablets, making sure that the Supreme Court justices adhere to what they believe is the source, the 10 commandments. You enter the Capitol building in Austin, Texas, and on the ground of the state capitol, there is a monument, a granite stone shaped like the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments inscribed, and underneath a number of stars of David. And certainly anywhere you go in the U.S., you hear, you see the signs of adherence to Judeo-Christian values, whether you are conservative or liberal. Judeo-Christian values are an endemic element of the American culture, of the American state of mind.
I thought it was rather funny that I had to go to Israel to get a history lesson on America. But Mr. Ettinger left me in awe of his knowledge and his love for America. Israel shares America's values, such as liberty, an independent judiciary, a free press, freedom of religion, free speech, and women's equality. The Arab and Muslim worlds have none of these. Those facts and America's Judeo-Christian roots make support of Israel a moral thread of American foreign policy. Our American values are closer to Israel's values than perhaps those of any other nation. As President Harry Truman said, Israel is the embodiment of the great ideals of our civilization. Among other things, Israel votes with us in the United Nations more often than any other country, and it provides us with uniquely important technological know-how and intelligence. Like it or not, Israel stands on the front lines for America in the ongoing war against terror. Mr. Ettinger expanded on the many contributions Israel has made to America on so many important levels.
It doesn't matter whether you are a leftist Israeli, right of center Israeli, or centrist Israeli. Israelis are knee-jerk pro-American. We realized that which unites us with the U.S. is unparalleled to any other set of relationship in the world. And that has made Israel the only reliable and stable and capable and non-conditional ally of America. To put it in concrete terms, one can refer back to the late General Alexander Haig, who was Supreme Commander of NATO forces, the Chairman of the American Joint Chief of Staff, and Secretary of State of the U.S. He used to refer to Israel as the largest American aircraft carrier, which does not require a single American person on board, which can never be sunk, which is the most battle-tested, the most cost-effective, and is stationed permanently in a very critical area for dire American economic and national security interests. And if there wouldn't have been Israel in the eastern flank of the Mediterranean, the U.S. would have to deploy additional real aircraft carriers to the eastern flank of the Mediterranean, which would have required $20–30 billion every year to maintain, all of which has been spared by the existence of a Jewish state in the Mediterranean. When one talks about Israeli contribution to American interest, I can refer to a visit which I paid to the plant manufacturing the F-16 in Fort Worth, Texas. The plant manager hosted me, and he shared with me what he considered the secret of General Dynamics and the F-16, and that's the daily flow of lessons from Israel, the #1 user of F-16, into the new generation of the F-16. In excess of 600 modifications are introduced in the current F-16 complement of Israel. 50% of the cockpit is basically complement of Israel. 75% of the firing control is a derivative of Israeli lessons, which has made, according to the plant manager, F-16 the #1 in the world. Therefore, it has expanded the employment base in that area in Texas, has expanded the export and the research and development base. The same thing applies to hundreds or thousands of U.S. military counterterrorism systems, which we use in Israel but continuously upgrade and improve together with the American manufacturers. The same thing applies to the robots manufactured by Northrop Grumman, which neutralize explosives. We purchase them because we have to deal with terrorist explosives on a daily basis. But our modifications shared with the manufacturer has made Northrop Grumman robot the #1 in the world, which I heard from the congressman from Tennessee, where it is manufactured, that this has made employment in his district that much healthier than other districts. When you multiply that by hundreds or thousands of such systems, we're talking to mega $billion benefit to the American economy coming out of Israel. You can move also to the commercial, non-defense market. Today, more and more, the giant American commercial companies, especially the high-tech companies, rely on Israeli innovations to compete in the global market. The other day, the CEO of Intel mentioned in a management meeting in Santa Clara, California, that if not for the 6 Intel plants in Israel, or 2 plants and 4 research and development centers, Intel would have been devastated by the competition. Microsoft CEO said the other day that Microsoft is becoming an Israeli company, increasingly so because of the impact of the research and development by Microsoft in Israel, which brings to Microsoft in America the latest of innovations. That is applied to also medical equipment, it's applied to energy alternative, it's applied to water technologies, it's applied to telecommunication, it's applied to the daily laptops which we use. Most of the modern day microprocessors have been developed by the American companies in Israel, leveraging Israeli manpower. One of the gurus of America's high-tech, George Gilder, wrote in the Wall Street Journal back in July 2011 that as a result of the analysis of the Israeli contribution to the American commercial and defensive industries and to the employment and research and development and American exports, his conclusion has been that not only are we a two-way street, but in fact, America increasingly depends on Israel as much as Israel depends on America, and we are much better off by working together rather than separate from one another.
Most people, right or left, pro-Israel or anti-Israel, would agree that Israeli-American relations are the worst they have been in memory. A recent poll shows that only 9% of Jewish Israelis think President Barack Obama's administration is more pro-Israel than pro-Palestinian. Given how much Israelis love and admire America, this level of mistrust is all the more remarkable. This administration's desire to have America liked in the Arab and Muslim worlds is a major problem in this relationship. You cannot protect Israel and strive to be liked in the Arab and Muslim worlds at the same time. And you cannot weaken that protection without weakening America's moral values, which form the basis of America's greatness. Even aside from compromising America's moral essence, weakening American support of Israel will only strengthen the America-hating Islamists. The notion that the radical Islamists will become pro-American or stop attacking America if America weakens its support of Israel shows an ignorance of evil. So there's nothing to gain and America's soul to lose by weakening or by even seeming to weaken American support for Israel. Yoram once again offered great insight into this problem, as seen from Israel.
You have an administration which is the most UN-oriented and Europe-oriented administration probably ever in American history. You have a problem on your hand because the UN is a hostile arena both for the US as well as for Israel, in fact, for the free world. The UN is a friendly arena towards rogue regimes and towards Muslim regimes at the expense of Western democracies. When you have an American administration which does not want to admit that there is a problem of global Islamic terrorism, because according to the President of the US, Islam is a religion which professes peace and not terrorism, then you have a problem, because moral ambiguity leads to ideological ambiguity, which produces operational ambiguity, which erodes your capability to face up successfully, effectively to the threat of terrorism. When you have an American president who assumes that the Palestinian issue is a root cause of anti-American Islamic terrorism, and therefore you have to be preoccupied with Palestinian issue, you have to pressure Israel, you know you've got a problem, because the Palestinian issue has never been the cause for anti-American terrorism. You go back to 1983, when Muslim terrorists blew up the Marines headquarters in Beirut and the US embassy in Beirut, murdering 300 American Marines. The reason the Marines were in Beirut was to stop the Israeli hot pursuit of the PLO, was to make sure that Israel does not decimate the PLO in Lebanon, but that was the time when Muslim terrorism hit the USA, when the Muslim terrorists blew up US embassies in Tanzania and in Kenya, murdering 300 civilians. That was the time when then President Clinton was brutally pressuring Israel, was fully supportive of the Palestinians, pressuring Israel to yield more and more and more, and that's when Muslim terrorists hit the US. The reason the US is hit by Muslim terrorists is because of the values that you represent. A lethal threat to every Muslim regime in the Middle East is freedom of religion, or the liberties of religion and the liberties of economy and education and expression, the liberties of economy and the internet. Those are the elements that threaten the existence of those Muslim regimes. Those are the liberties represented, and rightly so, by the USA, and therefore the US is being hit by Muslim terrorists. And last and not least, the only capable power to control the megalomaniac aspirations of Muslim regimes in Iran or in Syria, previously in Libya, has been the USA. And therefore, any rogue Muslim regimes wants to hit the US in order to advance its own megalomaniac aspirations.
While it has always been important for us as American Christians to support Israel, It is all the more important now as she stands in grave danger. Historically, the United States government has been, for the most part, a friend to Israel and has used its influence and power as a force of restraint against terrorist organizations and anti-Zionists that have targeted Israel. But we must understand this is no longer the case, and in fact, the opposite is now true. While the current administration has been anti-Israel in its policies from its inception, in May of 2011, President Obama opened wide the floodgates of terror when he publicly suggested Israel go back to a pre-1967 borders. The international terrorist organizations rejoiced and took that as a green light to move forward with their propaganda and assaults on the Holy Land of the Bible and its covenant people. In addition, the United Nations, the Quartet, and our State Department continue to move forward with anti-Israel policies. These things together have created a firestorm of international unrest, with Israel being the scapegoat target once again. While in Israel, I spoke with Knesset member Dr. Ari Eldad about this grave issue.
Only when the Soviet Russia and the Soviet bloc got stronger and threat to expand and had a lot of influence in the Arab world, United States gradually looked at Israel as an asset, as a strategic asset in the Middle East. Some people would blame or try to explain the fact that there's diminishing assessment of Israel's importance in the Middle East after the Soviet bloc was falling apart, because it was as if United States didn't need Israel as the only Western post in a whole pro-Soviet Arab world. But that's not the real reason why President Obama is the worst president Israel ever had. It's really a hostile environment that we can feel in the White House. And I'm afraid it has nothing to do with the real interest of the United States. Because when United States started to play on the Arab cards in his administration, United States didn't get stronger, but weaker. The Arab world looked at this betrayal of the United States in Israel, and they said, don't be a friend of the Americans. They betrayed their friends. They look at what Obama did to President Mubarak of Egypt, and he said, they betrayed their friend. It's not a good business to be a friend of the Americans. The fact that the American administration didn't intervene in Libya and allowed the French and the Brits to do the work there is not interpreted by the Arabs as calculated policy, but as hesitant policy. President Obama is assessed as a weak president. America is looked as weak. And these are bad news to the West, not only to Israel in this environment, but also to the West at large. We usually tend to think that politics is only an issue of interest. If the President Obama will analyze American interest to be in favor of the Palestinians or the Arab state, then he will give up the interest of Israel. He can sell us out in this Middle East market. But if there's a large body of American voters who believe that politics is sometimes more than sheer interests, it's not only the immediate political or economical interests that you can analyze, but something that must be based on moral issues, on shared values, then they can put their influence on any American administration, not to work only according of what they analyze as the immediate political interest, but something that will be more deeply rooted on the moral basis of decision of an empire like the United States. You cannot run your political decisions only on what you assess as tomorrow's interest, but you must do it according to the moral basis of a nation like the American nation. And this is what I can expect from the Bible-loving Christian in the States, to look not only the immediate interest, but on the moral values, and try to influence American foreign policy that will be more morally sound and morally based.
But regardless of the decisions our government makes or does not make, we must understand that God holds us as believers responsible for standing up for Israel. The time to stand up is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen, the White House. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive action alerts and order our films to share with family and friends. I want to thank you for watching our program today. Be sure to join us next week as we'll be focusing on the blessing and the curse contained in Genesis 12:3. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. If there's one thing history has taught the Jewish people, a place they can go in time of need is essential, and Israel fulfills that role. But the need for a Jewish state is not limited to being only a refuge for Jews. Jewish tradition in Israel grants full rights for women and people of all races, faiths, and gender. This tradition is what often makes Israel among the first countries to send doctors and field hospitals to any place where a natural disaster occurs, utilizing their medical advances to save lives worldwide. Muslims, Christians, and people of every faith, or those of no faith, have the freedom to worship or not worship as they choose. For Muslims, the Jewish state goes out of its way to provide this freedom. For example, every Israeli university gives students the option of deferring their exams during the month of Ramadan. The Knesset calls off all sessions at sunset during Ramadan to ensure that Muslim Knesset members can break their fasts with the traditional iftar dinner. In an open and democratic manner, opportunities for education, advancement, and careers exist for all citizens in the Jewish state. Sadly, such rights and opportunities do not exist in any of the Muslim Arab states. For example, in neighboring Jordan, Jews cannot become citizens. And in Saudi Arabia, no non-Muslim can become a citizen. Saying that Israel must cease to exist as a Jewish state while accepting that other countries define themselves as Muslim is pure hypocrisy. In most of these countries, no rights exist for non-Muslims, women, and the LGBT community. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org. Welcome back. PJTN Online was designed with you in mind because we hear from Christians, Jews, all over the world who make comments every week, who ask questions because they want to learn more. So we're here to serve you. This is your opportunity for us to have a conversation and to share your comments, to give us your feedback, and also to ask the questions that you might have. And of course, typically what we do every show, we answer those questions. We'll read those comments on the air, but because tonight is taped, we will not be able to do that. But if you email us at comments@pjtn.org, we'll answer your questions on next week's program. So please make sure you do that. I want to encourage you to visit our website if you haven't done so already at pjtn.org. Sign up to get on our mailing list so you'll be aware of all of our events that are coming up, as well as emails, newsletters that you'll get to keep you informed and educated about what's going on and inspire you to get involved in your community. You can always like us on Facebook. We're right here tonight. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so, please like us and share us with your family and friends. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, again, sharing us with your followers as well. And of course, you can go to our YouTube page at pjtn.org/TV. And you can watch all of our previous programs and some of the video clips and interviews we've done over the years. It's so full of great information. So I want to encourage you to go there as well. You can sign up to become a member so that you'll be able to get in and view it as well. So having said that, I just want to remind you, contact us if you have any questions, become a supporter. You may be asking yourself, after this program, what can I do? And I hear that all the time, wherever I go. The most important thing that you can do first and foremost is pray. And help us by partnering with PJTN. Become a monthly partner and sign up to become a PJTN Watchman for just $20 a month. You can make a difference. But one of the things that is so important is that you pay attention to what's going on in your community. PJTN equips people around the globe. It's kind of like Nehemiah. When Nehemiah was given the authority to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, he went and assessed the damage, and then he went to people who lived in front of sections of the wall, and he went to leaders in front of districts, in front of other sections of the wall, and he convinced everybody to just rebuild their section. Each one of our communities is a section of the wall of this country, and it has been torn down. We see a rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. I never thought that we would get to this place, but as David Tuck had, mentioned, it's horrible that a Holocaust survivor is alive to witness the decay in our culture here, even in the United States, the one country that was a bastion of hope, or has always been a bastion of hope for so many people from all over the world. And to see anti-Semitism arise again, not just in our communities, on our college campuses, in our children's textbooks, in elementary schools. It's horrible. But the only way it's going to change, ladies and gentlemen, is if we each get involved in our community. We can do something. You have to be informed. You have to be educated. That's why it's important for you to go to pjtn.org, sign up to get our newsletters and our emails so that you can stay current on what's happening. Again, by partnering, financially supporting $20 a month. Remember, our goal for 2018 is to sign up 5,000 new PJTN Watchmen around the world. We hear from Christians all over the world who want to get involved in their communities. As I said earlier in the program, we heard from a woman from South Africa, from Johannesburg. She emailed me and said, we have a horrible problem with anti-Semitism here. Help me to educate our community to combat this. So we are now helping them to get organized, and it's not difficult. So if you're interested in becoming a watchman, again, email me at comments@pjtn.org and we'll get you the information. Share our website with family and friends. We've got to share this message. Christians don't realize that we have a biblical responsibility to stand in this hour. God told the prophet Obadiah in the latter days he was going to wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by when their brother Jacob was persecuted and held in captivity. And I say to Christians all the time, if God is going to wipe out the Edomites in the last days, how will God deal with the church, with Christians who stand by and watch this anti-Semitism rise and do nothing about it? Just like what happened in Germany, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, Germany was a Christian nation. And if these people were Christians, then where were they? Why did they stand by? Why did they allow Hitler, a Nazi, to come to power with some of his views? I mean, it boggles my mind to even think that it was possible to happen. Can what happened in Germany happen in the United States of America? Absolutely. Germany at the time that Hitler came to power was an educated nation, a Christian nation. They gave rise to the Reformation movement. So historically, biblically, the German country, Germans themselves, were very involved in Christianity. So how does this happen? Again, this show, PJTN Online, encourage your family and friends to tune in every Wednesday night so that you can equip them and give them information as well. And also we've got there's more. We've got a program focused on Israel. For those of you who are not familiar with that program, it is PJTN's flagship program. It is award-winning. It broadcasts on Daystar, God TV, and 19 other media partners with PJTN every week. So you can tune in to watch the Focus on Israel on Daystar each week, Saturday evenings at 5:30 Central Time, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, and that would be 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time every week. Sunday nights, you can also catch Focus on Israel at 11 p.m. Central Time and 9 p.m. Pacific Time. Or God TV on Wednesdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, and of course, it'll be on the West Coast. The Pacific Time is 11:30 a.m. But check your local listings for other media. You can also visit our events page on the website for upcoming programs where I will be speaking in your area. We've got a very busy summer and fall schedule. I'm going to be in Florida this whole month of July. So if you're tuning in from Florida, go to our website, look at the events page, and see if I'm going to be speaking to a community near you. We'd love to meet you. Also, if you would like to arrange even a speaking event for me to come and speak to your church, your congregation, your civic group, on your college campus, to your students, if you are a high school teacher or middle school teacher, we have documentaries that we can show to the students and have a Q&A session as well. So educating the next generation is critical, and it's biblical. Joel 1:3, we're supposed to teach these things, these truths to our children and our children's children, and their children throughout their generations. So this is critically important as well. So again, if you're interested in having me come speak, you can email me at comments@pjtn.org. In closing, I just want to ask you, please keep Israel in your prayers. They are still under attack. There is a refugee crisis now, a Syrian refugee crisis on the border in the Golan Heights. We've still got missiles coming over from Gaza, so there's just constant turmoil and chaos in that region. So please pray for our Jewish brethren, pray for Israel, pray for the Christians in the land who are being persecuted as well, and pray for the leadership of the Israeli government, that God would give them wisdom, especially the prime minister. as he addresses these issues. And I want to encourage you all. You know, I'm here every week, and but I know each one of you have your own personal lives that you live, and some of you may need prayer. There may be a need for a healing, or a financial need, or a need for a job. We are here. We have a full intercessory prayer team, actually, that is international, and we would be so honored to be able to pray for you and with you to see an answer from Almighty God to your need. So again, email me at comments@pjtn.org. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight for this special program, and I just pray God's blessings upon you. And I also want to ask you, as we close tonight, to remember to pray for the United States of America. We are living in very difficult times, times I never thought I would have seen, where we are so divided as a nation. And if ever if this nation needed a blessing, it's now. So I hope that you'll join with me in praying for Israel and for America. And I want to just thank you again for taking the time to be with us. For our new friends, we welcome you. Please join us again next week as we tune in and we bring you more information on our PJTN online program. God bless you, and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and for the state of Israel. Let's watch this last closing clip.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you, and thank you for your support and prayers.